Yeah, we're gonna be
Go ahead. I think you should. I have a campaign, so I will be offloading some of this.
Thank you for bearing with us. It's 10 o'clock, policy and governance. Call this meeting to order. All three districts are here. Properly posted March 4th. Discussion and possible action regarding approval of minutes of February 28th.
Motion to approve minutes.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. And at this point, discussion, review, and possible action regarding fiscal year 22-23 estimate of needs. And at this point, we'll go down the line, confirm election board. And since Karen asked,
Go ahead.
oh, Miles?
Yeah, I was just gonna jump to emergency management. I know Barnes has got some, state people waiting on him to do some briefing and such about stuff in the area. If we could jump to him.
Oh, fair enough. So we're going by height. All right. Well, good way to start out the day. And I guess a request of Mr. Barnes, you will be first up. And then it sounds like Karen. Yeah.
All right, thanks, sir. Yep.
I have a motion to receive.
No, you just don't have to make a motion to receive documents. But second.
A motion and a second to receive documents. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Mr. Barnes, you're up.
Thank you. I appreciate you bumping me ahead in the schedule, as I do have some people at the state waiting on me, which sometimes I don't mind. I've got 5 cost centers. You'll see the first document I have there is an overview document where I just give general comments of all 5 of the cost centers. And I'm going to go through the simple ones first. Very minimal information there. The 1250-5500 Local Emergency Planning Committee. Those are funds that are held by Oklahoma County in regard to state statute requirement. And there are no budgetary implications, requests, or other funding liabilities for Oklahoma County there. That's basically just hold funds and continue to pass through. In fact, there's not even been any activity in that account for about 3 years. It's very sporadic. 1251-5500 Emergency Management Performance Grant. Hopefully these are in order in your package. That is the Emergency Management Special Revenue Fund. That's an annual performance grant that I received from FEMA through the Oklahoma Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. It's a $60,000 award, receiving quarterly increments of $15,000. And we do extensive reporting and other, as the name implies, performance factors to retain that grant. There are no budgetary implications, requests, or other funding liability for Oklahoma County. 1251-5501 combination account. This is actually three different funding sources. One is leftover fire management assistance grants, or FMAG grants, that in previous years we had substantial funding and substantial activity there. Quite fortunately, that has not been the case. The remaining balance in that portion is $2.88. The second piece is the FEMA pilot project overrun funds from the 2007 ice storm disaster declaration. I know some of you, particularly Mr. Blower, are very familiar with that. Those projects are underway and actually getting very close to completion, but there is still a fund balance there. And the third funding source is the infamous Luther copper theft reimbursement funds. And I draw approximately $140 a month. It varies a little bit from the Department of Corrections Victim Restitution Fund. And those funds are really going to represent the biggest balance that's moving. But there are no budgetary implications, requests, or other funding liability for Oklahoma County in this cost center either. Next one is 1251-5502 Communication Infrastructure Fund. These are funds that we use to maintain Spencer Jones Public Safety Communications Radio Tower and various RF communication components and systems that are used throughout the county, mostly by fire rescue departments and the Oklahoma County Office of Emergency Management. These funds are received from what we call the Eastern Oklahoma County Technology Fee. There's 9 fire rescue departments that contribute $2,000 a year in order to, use that VHF radio system as their primary means of emergency communications. And we also have funds from the tower lease fees from AT&T, New Singular, and T-Mobile. There are no budgetary implications, requests, or other funding liability for Oklahoma County on that account either. Next is EM General Fund. Before I move into that, any questions on those 4 simple accounts? Okay, thank you. The Emergency Management General Fund. This is an interesting year for Oklahoma County Emergency Management. This is obviously our routine business accounts, or what I call them. Personnel cost, I have one request there, and I'm not going to go through, I'm not going to read all this to you. If you want the background information, I'd love to discuss it with you, or you've got some information in front of you. But I'm trying to get the approval to hire an administrative assistant so that the 4 of us can focus better our attention on the task of the day and on the core mission and core functions of the Emergency Management Office. There's a list there of about 10 or 12 off the top activities that this person will be responsible for. And it's interesting the way we're working right now, all 4 of us are performing many of these tasks for ourselves in the projects that we have, and also for the department. And this would, one of the biggest issues is this would allow this to all come together under a single person, so we can definitely have greater continuity in the office and allow the 4 of us to move forward with the task and the things that we're trying to accomplish in the office. Estimated cost of that person, first year salary and benefits, are around $60,000. I need to have further discussion with Ms. Kent to make sure that the numbers I'm looking at are viable for the market. Honestly, I've never had an administrative assistant, and I do not know, but I believe I plugged in some relative numbers. Next area is travel, $5,000 requested. There's no change in that from previous years. Next is maintenance and operations. Obviously, maintenance and operation costs for everyone have increased over recent years. I have managed to hold mine somewhat level. We do not inflate this area. We constantly hone and fine tune this so that we give accurate information at budget time. And the only request I have of change in maintenance and operations is $1,080 in parking for the new employee, if in fact we're able to hire that person, and $3,000 increase in vehicle fuel costs.
David, what
Yes,
is
sir.
that percentage increase in your fuel cost? What are you guesstimating that to be at this point in time?
That's going to be, that going through the files and looking, I believe our current costs are in the area of $11,000, so we're looking roughly 30%. Yeah.
And as you're looking at this prior, you might touch base with our superintendents to see if they've got a forecast where we might be headed with fuel costs to better get that number nailed down if
Sure.
possible.
Well, that'd be better continuity across county. So that,
Yeah.
I will
So,
do.
okay.
Absolutely. The final item, and the one that's going to knock everybody's socks off, is in the capital outlay. Several key projects there. The first and foremost, we've got two key factors facing us in regard to facility. One is the city of Oklahoma City has ranked replacement of our current underground office, the bunker, the RMAC, whatever you want to call it, is in their top 5 priorities of upcoming projects, and they're experiencing some mechanical building related issues at that facility that they are unable to find vendors who want to tackle because of the type of construction. You guys, some of you I know have been out there. That facility being all underground, 11,000 square feet underground. It was all one monolithic pour. And when they did that, a lot of the infrastructure was in place when they did the giant concrete pour. So now they're going back. That was built, it's finished, I think, in 1965. So a lot of those internal pieces that were put in the facility at that time, some of you can't even bring out. I mean, they've already replaced a generator above ground and hardened, and the old original generator is still in the basement, huge monster. They can't get it out. So there's several things like that they're running into plumbing and infrastructure and HVAC issues now that they simply can't deal with. And the vendors have come and some of them have given proposals and then they call back. They had 2 recently that called back and said, we're not interested in the job. We just don't want to take on responsibility. So I think we may see it's currently in the top 5, and it's not going to surprise me if it gets bumped up even within that 5. But they are looking to replace that. Plus, we're losing space again. I've told you several years in a row, we're kind of a stepchild stuck in the corner out there, and that's getting ready to heighten or worsen as Oklahoma City is looking at adding possibly 8 more personnel in the next budget year to their emergency management staff. And they're going to have some place to put them. And one of them is the office that I've currently housed out there. They're going to divide, they're talking about anyway. They're going to have to update the lease agreement with us, but even my office being divided into 2 offices for 2 of those people. Just a lot of changes. It's going to be difficult, plus the fact it's going away. The second key factor is what I'm told is still on track and moving forward is the sale of the Krause facility. If the information we received on that originally is still in place, we're probably looking at maybe 20, 21 months before the materials and equipment and such that I've got in the shop building out there, it's going to have to be somewhere else. So those 2 components combined were in a significant bind in regards to facility. And I definitely wanted to keep that at the forefront. Estimated cost, well, there's one bright side to that. We actually were working under a contract with a engineering and architectural firm with Mr. Trumbo in my office for remodel of the shop building out there before the sale actually, this sale's been talked about for a lot of years before it started coming to fruition. And since we were already under contract with them for design work, we've been able to adjust the scope of that and moving forward with some design work now. So that's going to save some time for my department in regard to being able to come up with a viable plan for a facility. And working again with Mr. Trumbo, we're estimating about $2.5 million for construction of the site. I know that's substantial sticker shock. But if you think about it, this facility, when used appropriately, becomes a center of government for Oklahoma County during disaster times. It has to be a hardened facility. It has to be 24/7, 365 with all utilities, all communications capabilities, everything being able to run uninterrupted, and at a moment's notice has to be able to move ahead. So it is truly critical infrastructure. I won't go into further explanations of that. I did have from last year's budget. You may recall I had a request for $45,000 for a storage building. We still do not have a storage building except what we're using at Krause. I have pulled that from the budget request because that obviously would be unnecessary if in fact we're able to move forward with this project. Next capital outlay request is the ongoing cabin chassis provisions for local fire rescue. And I have the two standardized sized at $55,000 each for a total of $110,000. We've been doing that for several years now. I've developed a pretty favorable track record in that, and I'm requesting that that continue, keeping in mind that the cabin chassis replacement methodology that we're using is actually saving anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000 per unit, sometimes to as much as another $90,000. So it's saving a great deal of money. And it's also allowing flexibility at the local level for exactly how they need to use this equipment. We're seeing multiple benefits from this. In fact, we received a brand new unit yesterday that's going out to Hickory Hills, and they are in fact using an existing bed and pump and tank, those type things, and saving a great deal of money there. There's a third cabin chassis that you'll see that is added in this year's budget request. This is for the city of Hera, and it is a heavy rescue cabin chassis. I don't want to get too far in the weeds on the fire service, but basically rescue apparatus comes in light rescue and heavy rescue. The little small units you see running around going to car wrecks and stuff more often or not are light rescue units. But when you have a significant incident, sometimes even involving vehicle extrication, but structural collapse and a lot of different things, trench rescue, elevated rescue, those type of situations, you typically need a heavy rescue resource. Currently on the east side of Oklahoma County, we have one heavy rescue in place at Choctaw. And that's because of this cabin chassis replacement. 2 years ago in the 2020 budget, we did this same project with the city of Choctaw. And they brought a Freightliner cabin chassis and they put the existing bed and approximately $200,000 worth of equipment in bed from a previous unit over onto that cabin chassis. Excuse me. And that has made an absolutely phenomenal unit. When they first put it in service, I actually went out and drove it and got to mess with it a little bit. And that is a very fine heavy rescue unit. This requested project here would replicate that. And that would put a second heavy rescue unit in eastern Oklahoma County, which is obviously critical for the turnpike out there. And then that also being a regional resource and a partnership with the city of Hera that would put it on the road also with that new turnpike system. They also run out Turner Turnpike, go down to I-40 on a routine basis. So that is a tremendous resource for out there and would give a second heavy rescue unit for eastern Oklahoma County in that region. The estimated Hera match, I put a comment in there, you see, that's existing equipment on a heavy rescue unit they have that it's no longer cost effective to maintain. It is eating their lunch. And that, by the way, is another unit we purchased a number of years ago. But that repurposing of that equipment and that bed is their piece of the match, if you will, or piece of the partnership is easily $175,000 and possibly more than that to the $85,000 that I'm requesting for them. Other capital requests, a couple of the computers and monitors at $3,650 that is actually replacement, and a aerial unit battery charger and conditioner. The drone program that's been quite successful for us, which by the way was used on a wildland fire over the weekend, proved very beneficial, but this allows us to keep more batteries ready to go because of the specificity and the technical aspects of those batteries. They have to be cycled and what they call conditioned and those kind of things. And this is basically a case with a built-in charger that allows us to do that and keep those ready for use. And unless you have questions or I have forgotten something, that's what I have for you. Anything that you all have?
David, I noticed, and BET will go through this process as well, but you don't have any increases in salary.
It's my understanding that that was going to be addressed from the entire county perspective, like from BET.
I think, Mr. Compton, that is correct. I just want to say from my perspective, we've done a COLA in years past, been fortunate to do that. And then there's been some funds available for merit increases as well for our employees. Given where inflation is and where it appears to be headed, it's my hope that BET will consider looking at increasing the amount of the COLA to help offset the cost to our employees of just their daily activities, especially getting to and from work. So to all of you, Cody and BET will give you that number, but I'm hopeful that it will be, if budget allows, higher than in the past.
Excellent. We appreciate that greatly.
And then ultimately, I don't know, I appreciate you making us aware of your space needs. My hope would be that as we're developing a countywide capital budget, that it would be included in there and that you would have some sense of where you might be headed sooner rather than later.
Please.
And lastly, then, with regard to the space and your new employee, what will the arrangements be kind of going forward as you're being shoved out by the city, shifting people to work down here on a regular basis, continuing to leave someone there in a reduced space capacity? What's the plan?
Actually, the previous, or the kind of preliminary planning that we've been discussing is exactly what you said, likely abbreviated staffing out there, possibly moving at least one of the current here, because 3 of them are spending 99% of their time there. Mr. Comstock spends a certain amount of time at the Spencer Jones Radio Tower because of the technology issues he's doing out there and converting into a new switched Ethernet system as opposed to the old microwave bouncing all over the county system that we're in the process of eliminating and almost completed. So leaving abbreviated staffing at the bunker as long as that's possible. I don't know, I honestly have no insight into what that time frame looks like. If a new person were to be able to add it on, they would be likely down here until a new facility for the entire staff were to be identified or
Okay.
provided.
Okay. Thanks.
Anything else? All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
You wouldn't be happening to meet with the state about my money, would you?
Actually, no, we have had recent discussions in regard to that, and I don't know how much comfort this brings you, but of the 3, District 1 is in the lead because of the timing of the paperwork that was put in. But we have moved all 3 districts, well, yours already was, but the other 2 also we requested closing, I'm gonna say 3 weeks ago now, and that process is supposed to be moving forward. I actually had lunch a week and a half ago with the gentleman who is in charge of all recovery for the state. And fortunately, he's a good friend of mine, and I took that opportunity to chew him up one and down the other because of the delays.
Thank you.
It's-
We're off subject here.
Other jurisdictions are experiencing the same.
Thank you.
And when clarification, housekeeping, are we at 20 minutes apiece? Are we going to go through the rest of the day with these, or do we plan on recessing for lunch? I was going to clarify for some of the audience to say they don't need to be sitting here for the next 3 hours until their turn.
Right, so election board, if they're here, yeah. What I do know about is Kelly Thomas and her stuff. She is not able to be here today. So you can remove that one. There's some of them here that, I don't know, it's.
Well, I was
it's up to
thinking,
you.
I was thinking with the outside folks,
I think we just take them all, everybody just brings them up here, gives them to us, accept them, and then, because we're gonna beat these to death in BET.
Yeah, but in the past, the reason we've done this is so that we could somewhat present a unified front in BET.
But we've also got a little bit sooner than a couple hours before.
Yeah.
are you asking to come back later?
Thank you.
All right, bye.
We're constructing our budgets as we speak.
Fair enough. And next up will be Karen, and then I will see.
Speaking of that, Miles, kind of the last minute, are we on it seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, we're on a more condensed schedule in terms of submittals, et cetera? Or am I just wrong?
In this building, I can see where you guys will be later today. I have 2 outside entities. We'll get them done after HR, so My concern is if we're going at 20 minutes per office, it's gonna be a while. But if you just wanna hang out with us, that's fine. Oh, fair enough.
This is my first time to do the budget, so you'll see that I did it more of a worksheet and not the exact ones that they wanted back to county clerk by Friday. I don't know if you're okay with that or if you want the whole package.
I'm fine with this.
Yeah, this works.
Okay. It's pretty cut and dry. I've asked for some more money. If you'll see the highlighted areas in the last row, that is for some things that we need to do in the future to make HR and safety a little stronger. Probably my biggest one that I'm asking for is capital for some computer equipment, some software that we need for job descriptions. Do you want me to go line by line?
Just because you mentioned it, is that something IT is aware of and easily to get a hold of and implement, or?
Yes, I talked to Rich a little bit yesterday about it, and it's job description software that we're looking at to buy, just help us be a more smooth and systematic job description program. And I went high on it. It's the higher end. We may find something a little cheaper. We have the added expense of the federal motor carrier safety that we have to do every year now. So that was an added expense as well.
Is that part of the national background check stuff too?
The national background check is something else we're going to be doing. Right now, that's averaging, the prices we've looked at has been $30 per person that we hire.
That's just because we have.
Pardon me?
That's because we have an enormity of people coming from out of state applying for jobs here.
Yes, that's why we decided to move forward with doing a national. There are so many people that have moved out, and we've just been doing Oklahoma County background checks. And there's no way of knowing what happened in California or Texas when we do those. My concern is we're going to get smacked if something negative comes up with that. The advertising went up, if you're curious about that. With recruitment the way it is so hard right now, we're probably going to have to do an Indeed subscription. And they've just went up on their prices to $300 a month, and all we can do is 100 searches. For every 100 searches, we have to pay additional money when we're looking for applicants in Indeed. So that's something we may have to just take a whole Indeed, pay it to get more jobs for people to reply to them.
But 300 a month allows for more hits then?
Yes.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your
Good.
time.
Thank you. And I apologize for saying no out loud a while ago. I was just being comical with height.
Real.
You said it. All right. Facilities? Oh, no. He exited. Oh, good. Jamie, I was going to take you real quick. And then, MIS is on deck. Good morning.
Okay, for detention, we're asking for an increase of 1.6 million, and just under 800,000 of that is capital. And the Bureau, we're asking for an increase of 511,094, and the majority of that is also capital, 411,000 plus of that is capital. If you combine the two budgets, it's a total increase of 2.1 million, and 1.3, almost 1.4 of that is capital. These increases would provide the annualization for the 15 detention officers, the annualization for the 1 intake specialist. We're requesting 1 new maintenance worker. We're requesting 1 full-time LPC and 1 part-time LPC. And the increases to fringe that will cover annualization of intake specialists, the 15 DOs, and the 2 additional health coverages if we get the maintenance and the LPC positions. We're also asking for an increase that will cover food costs that have gone up a lot, and I'll give you some detail about that. I've listed just on this bullet sheet, basically, so you have a quick glance, the capital improvements. The lobby has doubled in price since we got the first quote about a year ago. The elevator capital plan is also way up. We need to upgrade our security camera server and replace 1 walk-in freezer in the kitchen. We would like to do some interior paint in detention and tile replacement. And we have had District 1 come out and work with us to give us a quote on doing a road. We need a road from the back of detention. It's actually on the south. If you are in the front of the building, it would be the far south end. That far south end of the building is actually the last door that we take kids out in an emergency evacuation. And the way the land is, there's no way a truck or a van or anything can actually get down there. It's a big ravine. And I don't know how it's gone this long. Luckily, we haven't needed to have some vehicle there for an emergency, but it's something that even if we don't do this year, definitely needs to be put on the watch list and addressed at some point for safety reasons. We are not requesting at this time additional salary and fringe to cover the increases that were granted that began in January. And the reason for that is we only have 2 months worth of payroll data, and we felt that we could make a much more informed request if we waited until September when you all are reviewing things again around like the supplemental process. By then, we will have 8 months of payroll and fringe data, and I think it will be to everyone's benefit to take a look at that and see if we'll be in a position to absorb any next year and what the actual salary increases are going to cost us in additional funding. So that's not in here. If you'll turn to page 3, it's the breakdown starting for detention, and it shows you the amounts. The increase in salary total is $348,820, and I have it broken down there for you. And it's the annualization. It's everything I just mentioned. Any questions about that before I go on? Okay. On page 4, the fringe is broken down on what it covers. And like I mentioned, we are asking not only for the annualization for the detention officers and the intake specialists, but if we're granted the new maintenance position and the new LPC, we've asked for family coverage for those two positions. On page 5 is M&O. And in M&O, there's actually only $26,900 of new money that we're requesting. 85,953 are the transfers that we've done from maintenance and operations to capital to cover things that we had to take care of, and we want to restore that back to M&O. So you'll see the breakdown. There's been about a 37% average increase, some much higher, in the most common grocery items that we order. And so 37% increase is about 44,400 from what we thought we were going to need last year when we did a budget. And also purchasing of COVID tests. So we took those two increases, which was 58.9, and we deducted 32,000 from that because we don't have the psychologist on contract anymore. And so we applied those funds to our increase that we're requesting, and that's why it came out 26.9 of actual new money. Our detention population growth from this time last year, we've had a 49% growth in our average population, number of meals, number of snacks. 37% average increase in our commonly ordered grocery items. For all of FY 2021, we spent $93,295. And we are at 89% of that at the end of January into this fiscal year. That number, 77,495, is actually, I need to update that. It's 83,322, which is about 89% of what we spent an entire year. And that's attributed to the grocery costs and also to the population growth. And that shows you on page 6, I didn't list all 30 items that are the most common order and their increases, but I did list some just to give you a feel for how we came up with that increase. I was surprised at applesauce going up 68%. That one really kind of surprised me. And footlong hot dogs, 49% increase.
So
Okay.
Jamie, you came from Department of Corrections.
Yes.
Do we buy any of their food, any of their meat and everything that they
No.
produce? Okay. Have we looked at it? Is it cheap?
No, we haven't.
Okay. I just thought it might be a way to offset some of our costs. But you remember, it's just meat. It's pork, it's chicken, it's beef. I think that's all they do.
OCI?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll check into that. Okay, on page 7 is the capital breakdown, and it shows you the increase in capital is $913,546, and I have it broken down, and I also show you what things are 65% and what things are 100%. Detention travel on page 8. We increased that by $1,300, and that's just moving that from the bureau travel to detention travel. We are projecting a possible surplus of up to $196,000 in salary and fringe combined when we get to the end of this year. Any questions before I do the bureau? Okay. We have a $17,156 increase in salaries at the bureau, and that is the annualization of intake at 35% and 35% for the new maintenance position, should we get that. And again, that doesn't include any money for the increases we've implemented. We're waiting on that. We're currently forecasting a possible surplus in our salary fringe combined of about 49,000 by the end of the year. The fringe increase is increase in healthcare premiums, the intake specialist, and the new maintenance position. The travel is just moving the 1,300. We reduced it in the bureau and added it to detention. In maintenance and operations, it's actually $5,244 in new money that we're requesting. The remainder of that is just the restoration of $37,243 that we transferred from M&O to capital to cover those critical projects that we needed to do. So there's been a slight increase in our usage funds with OLEDs and with the Oklahoma City radio band thing that we do, and $4,750 of it is a new MOU with the Crisis Intervention Center because they do the printing for out of custody youth. So we negotiated that. They wanted 6,000 and we got them down a little bit. The capital increase is the projects, page 10, 35% of the ones that apply to the overall bureau, and the same 8,000 for leases and furniture. That's all I had.
What are you projecting to do with your 49,000 surplus? Are you gonna ask to move that and then try to take out some of your capital request? Or is that something we can
I
do?
haven't thought about it. I'm projecting that, and I don't have a lot of data.
Right.
So I'm trying to be conservative with the projection of surplus, but I'll probably know a little bit better when we get, say, to May 1st. I'll be a little more comfortable that we might be able to move some. Right now, I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be thinking about any of these capital expenditures we've got. If we're going to have surplus,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think usually with your budget,
Absolutely.
it's one of the first things we do is jump off and take off after these capital things. So.
In your discussion with elevators, are you talking about new ones or just repair needs?
Upgrading it, and it was one a year.
Yes, they do 1 year because all the parts is out. There's no any more parts. It's all refurbished. So they're gonna replace all the hydraulic machine, motors and everything.
And how many elevator bays are there? Four.
Yeah. With control and all.
Yours
They're
are
gonna
all
replace.
hydraulic?
Only that we gonna use is the car.
But your elevators are all hydraulic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another meeting altogether. Anything from District 1? All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And MIS and then employee benefits is on deck.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, to get started, let's start in the salary area. What we would like to do is add 3 new positions. We'd like to add another level 3, another level 2, and another security analyst, so that we're 2 deep in that position, because right now we have 1. So to help pay for that, we'll be eliminating 2 positions at the end of this fiscal year. So those positions are no longer needed. So that salary can be, a lot of that salary can be converted. So we're really not actually asking for much there. Any questions on that before I move on to? Okay. For M&O, we're forecasting a 9.5% increase for just cost of doing business. Circuit prices increase, licensing prices increase. Usually we ask for 5. This time we calculated 9.5. The biggest change in M&O really is we're moving the Exchange Online licensing that we bought back in August or September when we migrated our mail to the cloud. Goes from a capital expenditure in first year to M&O. That's about $110,000. So there is some couple of savings in there. Obviously, we don't need Civic Plus anymore. That's done. So there's a little bit of savings there, but that is our big increase. As far as capital, we leave that the same, just like we normally do. That stuff is it's things that come up during the course of a year. I can't always tell you exactly what we're going to spend it on. It's just what comes up as hardware breaks and we need to replace stuff. The one big purchase we've got outlined for next fiscal year that we need to do is the battery replacement for the UPS down in the basement, runs the data center. That costs us $25,000, which is not as expensive as I thought it was going to be. We went ahead and included it, I believe, in our M&O budget. Is that right? Capital budget. Even though technically I think it's an M&O expense, we'll move it. There's a good chance right now, as we're forecasting the rest of the year, there's a good chance we actually might be able to pay for it with this year's money that we currently have, and we might not even need it. But want to go ahead and include it because I don't want to wait till May and deal with it again if we happen to not, if something comes up. That's all I've got. It's pretty simple. It's not a lot of difference from last year, other than the salary changes.
I'll ask you offline.
Okay.
What's that? District 3? All right, we're good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
No, wait.
Stand by.
In your capital,
Yes.
this would be for, Keith's gone, but some ongoing discussions about camera operations for the courthouse complex from the sheriff's office, maybe shifting to the facilities or the board or somewhere, which I think would involve you all. Have you been brought into any of those discussions?
I haven't. I'm not going to speak for my compadre over there, but I've not.
Okay, I would get with Keith
Okay.
to see what he knows where those discussions are at.
Okay.
I know that he's anticipating that taking over some of those maintenance responsibilities would necessitate some additional help for his area.
Okay.
I would anticipate if it all shifts to you, and this is all pretty fluid,
Sure.
it would result in an increase as well in both hardware and potentially individuals.
Possibly so.
So
Okay.
something to monitor going forward.
Okay.
All right.
It is. I thought the discussions were different in regards to that and whose budget it would come out of for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought the request was for us to take it over.
No. I don't think that that's any different. It's, who would oversee it? Who pays for it? Do we want internal employees? Because I think it would increase his cost and increase probably the FTEs that we'd have to give him. Or is there a way to contract that out through facilities maintenance just for the equipment and the maintenance of the equipment?
Well,
To which we're still gonna have to budget
I don't know
for
that we
either
would,
way.
if you're looking to contract it out, why couldn't the sheriff's office just contract it out at that point? I mean,
I could-
right. Yeah, no,
I'm just
I was unaware of that discussion. The last that I had information, and perhaps I was asleep, was that they were asking us to take it over.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that has changed any at all. But that
Yeah.
is,
Yeah, concerning future MIS budgets.
Okay.
I'm reading between some lines here. Forgive me as I say thank you and to be continued.
Okay.
To be continued indeed.
Employee benefits, social services on deck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Looking forward to next year, no changes at all. Giving 6,000 back from travel that wasn't used this fiscal year. So no new employees, no extra requests. Make it simple.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's one I can understand.
Any travel for next year?
yes.
Oh, good. And since he's left the building, I'll go to social services. Welcome.
Thanks, Christy.
Probably not quite as simple as John's, but we have, we know that whatever we submit, we've got a lot of unknowns right now. So as far as with our facility and so on, we know things are going to change, but we can't see how they're going to change yet. So for the time being, it seemed best to stay somewhat close to where we are now, but then put in the few things that we can predict. The main ones being insurance, the change with West Town, and then the question that I have for you, I don't have it in there because I wanted to discuss the best way to handle it. But the mobile unit that we're wanting to get to help us with the food, clothing, laundry, and generally just being able to be in more places and directly out there where the people are. I was going to put that in the estimate of needs, but my question is, because of the way this year things have gone with pharmacy, we haven't spent nearly the money that we typically spend for drugs for the indigent program. And I'm wondering, should we, rather than put the mobile unit in for next year estimate of needs, should we do that out of this year? Since it won't hurt anything next year for that pot of money.
Have you worked with Chantel to begin the RFP on the provision of that unit? And do you have some kind of guesstimate on time of delivery? Can we get it within?
I don't have all that yet. The type of unit I'm looking at is around 60,000. And that's not going through a bid process and all of that.
That's available
So-
as a state contract or a national contract? What do you mean not going through a bid process?
Well, I don't mean we're not going through, I just mean I haven't done that
You've just
process
done
yet.
some research on your,
I
okay.
just
all right.
ballparked about what the cost of that type of unit would be generally. So, but like I said, we can cover it
And-
out of this year if that's acceptable.
And the reason you have a little bit more in your pharmacy program this year is because the change in Medicaid, correct?
Correct.
They picked up more, but one of the things that you're looking at, and the reason you said some of this was in flux, was in order to serve people that might otherwise not receive Medicaid, we're looking at doing some adjustments to the poverty level, which would then next year we'd see a similar request for prescription drugs because we picked up a larger population. Is that right?
Exactly,
So we-
exactly. For
I guess
right.
long story short, people shouldn't anticipate that the prescription drug program would reduce next year or years going forward because we're
Exactly.
hoping to expand the services we're providing.
Yes, I have, so hence I do have it in there at the same amount next year. Seems like the safest option that I know, Miles, you have questions,
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you to take it out. Because I do not see it expanding services any more than, or increasing poverty level. That's a discussion for another time, and we've
Right.
had that in another, in policy and governance, and we can continue that. And the other is the mobile unit. We had talked about this a few years back. I didn't know that we had actually pushed this forward and discussed and recommended that we move forward on that to BOCC or anything of the sort. If that's the next step, I certainly think a service like that should certainly be discussed thoroughly before we fund it, either to purchase or fund it.
I'm ready to have that discussion right now then.
It's fine with me.
I mean, the board has a constitutional duty to support the indigent in this county.
Yep.
Okay. We have underutilized social services, in my opinion. We've not reached the number of people that could be desirous as that claim on the board. And I believe that the next step, given where the economy is, the things that are happening both with the pandemic and now with inflation, that we're only going to see the need increase. And I think having a way to reach people through a mobile unit to provide them the services the board is constitutionally mandated to provide makes sense. Part of the reason we don't reach these people is because they can't get to us. They don't have the means to get to us. So, I mean,
I'm going to recommend we have that on the agenda for the regular policy and governance next week. And
So we will do that for purposes of this estimate of needs. Perhaps what I should do is go ahead and put the unit in there, and then we can, if we end up getting it out of this year's money, then it just comes off, or how would you recommend I go about that? In order for us to do it out of this year's money, is that something that would need to go through the BET for approval for us to ask to do that?
especially since it's coming out of another cost center, yeah.
Right, it would be a
You're gonna have to
transfer
move
of
that
funds.
from M&O over,
Mhm.
yeah.
do all inter-department transfers go to BET? I seem to recall juvenile just recently moved some money and it was a matter for the budget board,
Like
just to
the budget
transfer
board.
it. Yeah.
We've done it both ways.
Yeah.
Either way.
I would say BET doesn't weigh in for within their own budget. However, I think a little bit towards Miles' point, it is beneficial and helpful to inform BET for claims. But it's not a requirement. It's usually not something to take action on. But we appreciate it.
Okay.
That's how we treated it.
I think to be respectful of Michael and Miles' position, you have funds that you anticipate could be utilized for that. I think, was it you, Michael, or Miles that said, put it on the next policy and governance and we can talk about it some more? I'm fine, but you have the funds available.
Right,
It would just necessitate moving it from M&O down to capital to make a purchase.
right.
Where did those funds become available from?
From the
Vote
drug.
for the public to expand Medicaid and our drug costs decreased,
Right,
covering who the public wanted to cover now, the state is. So that freed up funds out of our budget. Now we're looking to shift funds that previously covered those individuals to provide a trailer with showers.
it's for laundry, for clothing and food and laundry.
Yeah, we're looking to shift providing one service to the poor to another service to the poor. That's what we're looking to do. Yes.
Right. The
Okay, that sounds good. So let's move that item to the next policy and governance. If you have more need to discuss that truck unit. And then there's some other items on this for estimate of needs.
that was our main question. Really, the others are, like I said, change in insurance, and then just the rest of it's really minor. So for purposes of what we're submitting on Friday, we are not going to include the mobile unit on this estimate of needs based on this conversation, is my understanding.
I wouldn't think so.
Okay. Um, No, like I said in the beginning, we know that there are some unknowns um, and that whatever we submit, it may not end up looking like that as it plays out, but this seemed like the best approach for where we are for right now.
All right, anything from District 3? District 1? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot, who did I say was on deck? Planning. Yeah, engineering, come on up, and then on deck would be planning.
Wait, let's call Christy back up for a second, if we could. And then maybe Grant after Christy. You've mentioned previously, and we've had some discussions about co-locating some of your staff with Grant, et cetera. Where are you at in that process? Is there anything that would need to be reflected in your budget, or are we opposed to trying to get people out of the jail?
Actually, just this, yeah, come on up. It's sort of a joint conversation. We've been working toward it, and just this week,
So where we're at is we should have, and I've been talking with Keith and dealing with him, by the end of this week, we should have the office spaces moved and set up. And then next week, if things go as they should, we talked about, Christie's folks should be moving in next week.
and we're ready to go with it. It was just a matter of getting this space.
And there,
If what you envision proves successful, do we anticipate that we're going to need any additional staffing in order to continue to help people who are either coming out of our jail permanently and try to provide them services so they don't end up back there, or who are awaiting trial and we're trying to prevent them from ending up there because they violated one of their conditions?
so for me and all this, not because of this.
Okay. All right. And you don't think you'll need anything?
Not at this
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stacy, you were halfway here. You want to come back?
Shoot away.
We've had the benefit for a few years, lost some long-term employees. Dale Gordon, been around a long time, replaced them with new employees, so payroll went down, making fringe benefits go down. Health insurance has gone from 3 family, then we're down to 1 family, so had some savings. Actually could have taken a budget reduction the last couple of years, but because of COVID and not having these meetings, we just stayed at a zero budget, which I had excess. And I think I gave between 5 and 10% back last year, and I'm going to give 5 or 10% back this year. But budgeting forward, because of the inflation, and we have given some COLAs and stuff last year, my budget will go up, but I think I can still cover it. So what I've put together here is basically no change. I moved some things, some pieces around, but I don't anticipate asking for any additional funds.
Any questions?
Equipment wise, you're good.
Well, I'm gonna get some computers and stuff next fiscal year, and I budgeted those in there, but I was able to cover it without an increase, really. The only thing I couldn't cover going forward is if the BET or the budget board says we're gonna give COLAs and merits next year. I cannot cover that. That would have to actually be new monies.
Okay. No, thanks, Miles.
All right. See no other questions. Thank you, Stacy. Follow up with TG because it's easy and it's all in the same.
I must apologize. I was not prepared for this at all. So I could have something ready for you maybe tomorrow. But,
It was quick.
yeah. But right now, the planning, right now, possibility of my retiring, I don't foresee us needing anything other than what Stacy said about the computers, maybe some better laptops for our guys to work from home if this COVID-like program continues. But
So are you living off of your fines or fines? Are you living off your fees?
yes, basically off our fees, yes.
Okay.
And with the supplement from the general fund. So.
Yeah. And you're not gonna, you don't see need any extra or anything of the sort.
No.
In fact, as things pick up and construction picks up, our fees obviously increase, and there may be some offset to where we can cover some capital expenditures within that.
Correct.
So.
Correct.
Okay. Joe, anything?
No, you hit it.
I mean, this one's pretty basic. He lives off of what he kills, and he's hopefully it's going to be killing some more. I'm really hoping we can get a big construction boom in Eastern Oklahoma County. So,
yeah, we all are optimistic.
We'll have to wait and see.
planning. You got any questions? All right, thanks, Tyler. Do you want to take back over? Or do you want me to yell at you?
Yeah, I'll yell at Grant. Last man standing. Let's go. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we can start on top, general fund. This is, as you know, this is our salary and benefits. It just covers those things and some cell phone stipends. You'll see there's a little bit that we'll have extra, and that's just simply from some time periods with open positions to be filled. Otherwise, as mentioned earlier, I am requesting a position, the typical position we've been asking for, the community care health worker. Like I mentioned earlier, we're not because of the collaboration we have with Christy and what's going on there, and we'll see how that goes. And I'm assuming it'll go very, very well. Did put a request in there, as I have in the past, for data analyst. With the past, there's been requests for certain types of data and the necessity for us to do that. In addition, there's a House bill and a Senate bill right now that potentially could drastically change our reporting requirements and type of data we collect. So with that being said, I put that in there in the event that's needed. Otherwise, that's it for this one. Questions on that? Okay, 126301, this is our special revenue. This again, we don't ask for any money in this. This is funds generated through the collection of fees, and that covers all of our M&O. And you'll see that, what we spend and again, don't request any money out of this. This is fees collected, generated, which covers our M&O cost. So that's all I got on that. And then last is our 302, our GPS indigent fund. That one, you'll see what we had, what we've spent. Now, keep in mind, because we got low in this account, we have about roughly $20,000 that'll be spent. The $50,000 went in, should be this morning. So we have right up front about $20,000 that'll be spent out of that right away. So with that, I did put in to ask for 50,000. I'm open to asking for more or less. Again, as you guys know, this cost center, these fees, it's all dependent on what the courts do and how many people they put on this indigent fund, and it can go up and down. But we've gotten to the point now where the last few invoices are $4,500, so it's increasing. So with that, we can do like we usually do, where when the funds get low, like we've done in the past, to go to BET Budget Board and request additional funds. Or I know there was some discussion to just give some additional funds now. So I'm open to doing either one.
Well, at the rate that you just spent spending the current 50,000, we're talking a 3 or 4 month window.
Well, no, it's for this you're looking. I'll just say 4,000 or 4,500 to be spent a month. So I mean, you're looking at spending the whole thing 50,000 or more for a year. So which I put in there because we will have carryover because we're just now getting the $50,000 now.
Right.
Right. And that,
but then to take into consideration too, the one when I mentioned the invoices that need to be covered now, one of those is 10,500 to cover the lost bracelet one, which is not your typical month-to-month one. That comes once a year, right. So that has to be covered as well.
And that's only going to increase as usage increases.
You would assume.
As one goes, the other.
As you absolutely, you would assume.
Similarly with the amount of monitoring that happens on this, as we add more people to the bracelets, we need more people to monitor it. Have you looked at that? I know you've got 1 or 2 that do it now, and it's pretty.
Yeah,
they're underwater already.
We've done a good job playing with the staff we have now to have, like, Kathy is our GPS case manager and does an awesome job. And then our other case managers still hold a GPS caseload, and they do an amazing job as well. And we're getting very close to that at any point, which could potentially be now, to add an additional case manager to assist with that monitoring. Assuming it continues to go, which we have to watch really close.
Yeah.
And with that mentioned, so when you reconfigured your office to allow 2 folks from social services, do you still have space for additional staffing?
We'll figure it out, yeah.
We've got,
We've got space.
to that point, there's tons of space on the north side of the building. I've
Correct.
actually taken Keith and walked through and said, can we get this open for the court services? For one, with the COVID and the current budget, we're hosed now, but we could have used CARES funds to do it, to spread these individuals out, because if you've been in Grant's office, they're on top of each other, and they should be
And
spread out a
we
little
moved
bit
that
more.
around too. We did a good job and
Yeah, you
basically
did.
took out our break room and turned it into more office space to separate folks even more. And there is the office space on the north end, which is what we're going to utilize now to allow Christian's folks some space to help us and our folks and any other folks with any type of social services that they need.
Yep.
And
There's a closet there that used to hand out
clothing
clothes
closet.
and
Yeah, there's
stuff like that.
three offices in the back, as well as I guess you call it a cubby or
Yeah.
extra space. So we'll be able to utilize one of those here hopefully in the next week or so.
Right. Grant, go back, you mentioned a couple of bills working way through the legislature right now on data reporting that you may have to do. Would the data analyst position would do that in addition to the things that you've currently been asked for? So that the data analyst just isn't in anticipation of that, it's a current need, correct?
Yeah, they could do
And they would be able to deal with that.
several things.
With regard to the data that they might now mandate you to collect, do we have the current software available to do that in the event it happens? Is this a Connexus thing? Is this a jail tracker thing? Is this
Based on
I need to be looking for something else thing?
based on how we're able to utilize it now, we will more than likely continue to utilize it the way it is now, which is using some of it to pull data, but a lot of it will continue to be done in essence by hand to ensure that that data is accurate and collected the right way. If that somewhat answers that question. So unless they can provide us with the type of collection data they told us they would be able to provide us with, then no, we'll still be doing things as we somewhat have been in the past, which is collecting that data by hand to ensure time frames and date ranges are accurate opposed to the other way, which is highly important when you're asking for certain data from point A to point B. For us to do that, we can pull some data, but for accuracy purposes, we'll need to do it by hand to make sure it's perfect.
Which is labor intensive. Okay. All right. Thank you, Grant.
So, anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, for the two arenas that aren't here, do we want to recess till tomorrow? Or do we want to call them back this afternoon? You said Kelly was out, period, today?
Aren't you, if you're gonna recess, my thought would be to recess for those, give those individuals that kind of had this sprung on them, give them some time, like Thursday, to put their budgets together, because everybody knew they were all due Friday. That's been out there for a while now. It was not a date voted on by anybody that I'm aware of, nor was the form. I think that was a deadline imposed by another office. But if we could give them some sort of time, that'd be nice. Instead of just recessing until later this afternoon or tomorrow.
And the Thursday schedule is clear?
We'll
Yes,
see you
ma'am.
Thursday.
Make a suggestion. Since agenda item restricted your ability to make some policy type discussions and decisions. If you're contemplating Thursday, it might be better to just call a special where you can add agenda items that would broaden your ability to discuss. Just a thought. Otherwise, we're gonna be back in here where we're limited to our estimate of needs, and I'm calling time out on it.
Well, I'd be open to that, except we've got a regular policy and governance next Tuesday, but I know there's a date sensitive in some eyes for Friday. But since we have facilities here, we don't need to talk about recess. Let's go with,
Custodial. You haven't heard it, it's Pearl Sager.
Are you? Yeah, you're moving quick.
40%.
Like molasses in the wintertime. Uphill. Both ways. With a snowstorm.
Thank you.
Our janitorial contract is in place for an additional 3 years. I have contacted management and asked them if price escalations would bring about a cancellation of the contract. And I'm told no, they want to keep the contract as is at the current price. That's at least for now.
Okay.
We discussed as far as supplies are concerned, I had Sandy call regional suppliers and also national vendors for paper products. And we have included a 40% increase in the cost of paper goods. The report from a regional vendor, they had over the past 6 or 7 months, 5 price increases, all ranging between 3 and 5% each. So the budget request for fiscal 22-23 is $336,200. That's up $23,200 from the previous year.
Straightforward.
Yep. You mean inflation's affecting the budget? Got it. Great. Next.
Is there anything else you'd like to see? Anything else you want? Anything else that we've missed in the past 20 minutes since this was constructed?
well, it depends on if we're recessing or not.
What's Thursday look like? What's it mean? Nothing. Motion to recess till Thursday in this same room at 9 a.m.
Second. Motion is second to recess till 9 a.m. Thursday. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Sure.
We'll see you Thursday at 9.